Well, hello, Ceramics One. So today we're going to chat about how to do your planning sheets or your guide sheets for your coil form. Now, most of you are probably not going to have one of our traditional planning sheets that we use in ceramics, where we talk about, cutting it in half, doing a cross section. But what you should have at home is some white, either computer paper, you could use notebook paper, any kind of sketchbook paper will work. Usually about a 9 by 12, which is kind of the size of this, would work just fine. So on your planning sheet, obviously the first thing that you're going to want to do is think about some different shapes that you're interested in trying to create. So if you look at this section of this planning sheet, you can see that there's some variation in the sizes and the way that that's planned. We'll be making these out of coil, so if you have a really thin neck form, that means we'll be having tighter rings of coil that are stacked more tightly, and we'll be thinning the walls. The goal is for each of these forms that you make to have about a 1/4 inch thick wall in the end. The other thing, the second section we'll be looking at is, of course, your design. And when you're thinking of the design that's going to go on your coil form, you want to be inspired by some of either the Native American designs that you saw in the presentation, in the screencast, or you could bring in some of your own design options. So looking at this particular design, I was thinking not only about the Native American designs that we saw from the presentation, but I was also looking and thinking about my own personal heritage. And I am part Cherokee, so I was thinking of bringing in the owl symbol, which is pretty predominant in Native American culture. And I also really like the kind of rain cloud and the moon motif. So I'm thinking about using something like this. So how do you start your design? Well, a couple of pointers. On this sheet, I'll give you some tips for starting. When you're thinking of your design, think in terms of making the body form first. So we can have rounded forms that start with a circular body, like this, that then you add a neck form to, like this. You could come in and think in terms of, instead of having a rounded base for your form, for your coil form, you could have something that is wider at the bottom, that then gets more narrow, more like a pear shape that goes up like this. And then you might want to have a neck on your form that flares out like this. Or you might want to keep it a little bit more simple and go straight. The requirement is, and keep in mind these requirements, your form, the height of your form from here to here, should be no taller than 7 inches. Okay, the shortest that it can be would be 5 inches. So we have a 5 inch to 7 inch height requirement. In terms of the width this way, most of us want to keep it about the 3 to 4 inch range. And that's simply so we don't use up all of your clay. We're going to want to use that clay for other forms that we're making later. So do keep that in mind as you work. So you could do a rounded form, you could do a pear-shaped form, you could even do something that has multiple curves in the form, kind of like maybe the base of some kind of guitar form that's maybe flat on the bottom so that it sits. You get to be creative with the shape of this. Okay, that's totally your discretion. So after you decide on a shape that you like, then you come in and plan for your design, which we said is step 2. For the thing that you turn in today for the planning day, I'm going to have you turn in this entire sheet, a photograph of this, and then upload it to me as an assignment. And then the other thing that I'm asking for is the template. The template is something that you're going to make that we actually are going to cut out. So I've made 2 variations of my template here. One is a 5 inch version. So if you look at a ruler, remember we start at the 0, go down to the base. So actually this is not 5, this is 6, so I apologize. 6 inch variation, and then a larger variation, which is 6 3/4, so it's not quite 7. And then I'm going to decide which of these 2 I want to cut out. So the way that I'd like you to think about doing this, if you take your sheet, let's say you're using notebook paper or you're using a piece of computer paper, fold it in half, and then take a ruler And make sure that you know where 7 inches ends. If you want to do something smaller, go with 5. Okay, but keep it in this range. So it should be no taller than from here to here when I'm doing my plan. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to draw half of my vase form. So let's say that I chose to go with this form. I've drawn approximately half of that here. So what I would do is start at the top. Don't go out too far with these because it's going to double its thickness when we cut this out. And then I'm going to curve this down. And then before I cut this out, I might think, you know, wait a minute, I think I really want to have this a little higher. You can always edit and adjust and erase before you cut this out. Maybe I want it more rounded, and maybe I want it a little wider at my bottom. So after I have that 1/2 of it looking the way that I like, I'm going to come in with a pair of scissors and I'm going to cut this out. You're going to keep both pieces that you're cutting out. And after I finish cutting this like this, this is going to be the height and shape. And I can decide, well, I really like this, or maybe I want it to be a little wider. That's going to be a decision that you get to make. And then when I look at this, I will be actually holding this up to the clay as I work with and shape my form to make sure that it follows this shape, this structure. Okay, so you'll keep both of these. And then what I would do is take my template piece and maybe transfer my design onto that. Okay, so again, review of what you'll be handing in or taking a picture of and uploading to me to show me for credit and for your points for this part of the assignment is going to be your planning sheet with your design options. You're going to plan your design, and then you're going to cut out your template, and you're going to keep both pieces. Okay, I look forward to seeing these. Be kind, be well. Talk to you soon, Miss T.